All right. Hey, guys, it's Kevin again, and this is going to be for the long overdue review of the next film in the Harry Potter franchise, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. I'm just going to jump into right now. This, of course, is our third collab review, and with me again, as always, is my good friend here. You guys hate him, but he continues to come back on this channel. He does do YouTube videos again, so I can't use that joke anymore, unfortunately. Here he is, Auburn Wanderer.
Oh, yes. Hello, everyone. It is me, Auburn here. It's kind of weird because the first two reviews we did, I wasn't on YouTube, and now I am on YouTube, and I have this background and everything, and it is very spicy, okay? So, yes, I'm happy to be here.
Except for the village. That's not too spicy.
That movie is a masterpiece, so you shut up.
Yeah, it's all right.
What do you think Where the Wild Things Are? That's my favorite.
That movie's amazing.
That is a great film.
Actually, you know what? That movie actually, it's terrible. I hate that movie. You know, it's really awful.
Why do you have the French version?
Because this is the one that was on Amazon.
Okay. Anyways, so yes. So I'm very happy to be back on YouTube. Like I said, this is you know, it feels good because like in all the other reviews, I wasn't really trying that hard, and this one I actually am gonna try hard. So this is gonna be a good review. Unlike our Chamber of Secrets review. So well,
that was a great review. You know, it wasn't like we fucking like rushed through that or anything.
Yeah, but this, I mean, I don't like that movie, but this movie's quite a bit different. So we'll get into it. So yes, let's do this. We're gonna talk about, in my opinion, probably the most popular Harry Potter film.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think it is. Yeah, probably. So
yeah.
We'll just get into it now. Okay, let's go.
All right, so of course, Harry Potter and Prisoner of Azkaban, if you don't know what this one is about, it's a bit different this time around. Basically, he goes back to Hogwarts and he learns that there is this killer named Sirius Black who has been, he was in prison and now he has been released from prison, basically. And basically, he is the person that supposedly is responsible for the killing of Harry's parents. And basically, he basically is on a, you know, he's doing what he can to track him down, bring him to justice, and get him back to where he belongs. But things are complicated along the way. But that's really only scratching the surface. There's a lot more to talk about for sure. Just to get into right now, this is one of the ones I was most looking forward to rewatching. Also because, similar to Chamber of Secrets, I really did not watch this one a lot as a kid. I don't know why. This is one of the ones I remember watching and I absolutely loved it. I just never really went back to it. And I really wished I did because this film is fantastic. This is for sure one of the best in the franchise for sure. It is very different from the other ones, but I think that's one of the reasons why it really does stick out and why it really is one of the best for sure. But I'll get more into it. First, I'm going to go once again to Auburn here, asking, what do you think of this film overall?
All right. So this film, in my opinion, is great. I do think this film is quite great. And I think part of that is because this is the first Harry Potter film that I feel like there's actual like stakes and there's some actual like weight to what's happening. Because yes, I mean, I do like Philosopher's Stone quite a lot, and I think that like the whole like finale aspect is very it's kind of intense, and I think it's like very like bold.
It's a good setup, yeah.
Like but like I said, Chris Columbus just no. So, especially Chamber of Secrets, which was a clusterfuck of like tones and ideas, and just it didn't really like have any stakes. This one, however, is extremely like creative for a Harry Potter film, and you know, and the thing that's interesting is that I didn't realize this film was PG, but it takes like so many just bold and just daring risks for what could be labeled as like a children's film. And this is like the first time I think that the source material has been, except for like J.K., Rowling when she wrote the books, like it's like the first time it's been handled with like some sort of like like realism to it.
Yeah.
But also keeping like the whole like fantasy element of it. And it just works really well. And my favorite part about this film is it really starts to get into like the psychological warfare in Harry's head involving his parents and who he is and what he can do in this world. And, how he's viewed and just all this. And it's really, really engaging and interesting. And something about this film that Kevin can talk about, this movie visually is perfect. Like, it is Like, I mean, I watched the new 4K version, and my God, like the visuals are just so haunting and sometimes beautiful and just powerful, and they really stick in your mind. This is a very memorable film, and this is the one I watched the most as a kid, and it holds up still really well to this day because it's produced so well. But I won't go into it all right now. So.
All right, so me getting into it, like I said, absolutely love this film. There's so much to really appreciate about this one. Just the directing in general. It feels so fresh and different. Like, I will agree, Chris Columbus, I don't think was the greatest director in the world. I don't think he was terrible or anything as much as you do, but they definitely did need some fresh ideas into the franchise for sure. And I do think that Alfonso Cuaron really did put his own spin into this film overall. Right off the bat, this film is significantly darker from the other two. It has a much more sort of creative feel to it. I mean, the whole franchise as a whole really does. But this one just feels very creatively different. And there's a lot of things explored in here that we just have not really seen before. And I think he just put a nice spin on it that I really did love seeing. And sure, he does retain the essence and the fun of the other films. He definitely doesn't try to deviate away from that. But he just adds his own little umph to it that just wasn't really there in the first two, and that's something I really appreciate about this one. But the other thing I really love about Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban is the writing. Besides the fact that, like I said, this one really does build on a lot more creatively. It's relatively a lot simpler than the first two because this one, it's very much more of a personal mission for Harry. Feels like, this is kind of the key to uncovering more secrets about what happened. He's very adamant about tracking down Sirius Black and everything. And you see Harry, he's not taking as much shit from people in this one. He is very much in the very beginning of the film, he's just had it with his aunt and uncle. He's like, forget it. I'm just going to send, I believe, I don't remember what her name was, but that one lady that was very much annoying him, I'm going to blow her up like Violet Beauregard and send her flying through the air and, distract you. And it's right off the bat, it's so different from the first two. You just see that he doesn't really care as much about them anymore. He is so much more anxious to get to Hogwarts, and you just see that connection that he really does have to. And I think they do a really great job with that here. And that's something I really do love. And once we get into the central mystery of it all, I love how reluctant Harry is. On one hand, he really wants to track down Sirius Black, but on the other hand, this is a guy that wants to kill him, and he knows could possibly, get himself into some very violent territory. But at the same time, he knows that he could uncover a lot of secrets. And I like seeing him very conflicted throughout this film. And I think there was definitely a very good story overall. But like I said, creatively, there's so much I love as well here. Just little things like, first of all, the whole scene on that night bus is just so creative. I wish they would have used it more in the other films. It's just such a crazy, just rampant sort of, this rampant vehicle that just is constantly just so chaotic, and it's bursting with this really crazy music. And I just really love everything about that night bus sequence. I think that's really great. Of course, stuff like, what ends up happening in the climax of this one, which we'll get into a little bit later, but I really do love things like that. And just little things like the candy that they eat that suddenly makes them sound like different types of animals. I just think it's a really cool idea. And I think that's something that is so well done here. And I really do love it. It also is a very fun film. There's a lot of funny moments here, particularly a moment involving Ron that honestly might be one of the funniest moments in this entire franchise. I was honestly dying. It involves him in this dream and these things he's saying. It was absolutely hilarious. Definitely, I think one of the funniest things maybe in this entire franchise. I love everything about that scene. And like I said, things just feel so much significantly darker. And we'll get more to that with cinematography. But like I said, I think the writing here is so well done. There's so much to really enjoy about it. I'd love to dive more into it, but that would be getting into spoiler territory, which we'll get into a little bit later. But I'm just going to go back to Caden, ask him, anything else he wants to say before I get more into cinematography and things like that.
With like, there's an echo.
That's great.
It's kind of. We're not doing a review with an echo. Okay, there we go. So, so yeah, something that Kevin touched upon is, Harry and, like, him, like, maturing as a person. Like, not taking as much, like, crap from people and, like, slander, whatever you want to call it. And that's something that really strikes me about this film. And I think that Daniel Radcliffe really, really captures the maturity of Harry Potter, because this is when he starts to go, and all the characters start to go into in adulthood. And it becomes much more, darker, and they begin to realize more about the world they live in, and especially Harry Potter in this film. And it's captured so brilliantly, and this is a great script. For all the reasons I was talking before, and especially character-wise, because it really goes deep into what makes these characters, tick, and what scares them, and just how, like, bold they are in their drive. And I think everyone at this point has been fleshed out well enough, and this is just expanding on it in different and interesting ways, because these characters are changing in different and interesting ways. So the directing and the writing resemble that. So my issue with Chamber of Secrets was mostly that I feel like Christopher Columbus, he was trying to make it darker when those characters I don't think were there yet.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't really work tonally. And this one, it works because these characters are getting more mature and they're noticing more. So it works. And like Kevin said, there's a lot of people like to talk about how dark this film is. And Alfonso Cuaron and just all this stuff. But this film is really fun in a lot of ways as well. It's enjoyable to watch. It's not like really that boring. Like I said, visually it's fantastic, and there's like these little great like sequences, that just really like build up like the fantasy element of it. And, they still have some innocence in them. So it's really great overall. And one of the parts that I loved the most as a kid is I forget what it was, but it's at the beginning when Hagrid becomes like a professor. And what was the thing that Harry rode? And that Draco tries to go and it like hits him. What was it called?
I forgot what it was called, but that's such an incredible sequence.
I love that sequence. It's one of my favorite scenes. It's so well done. And Alfonso Cuarón, he is a fantastic director.
Buckbeak.
Oh, Buckbeak, yeah, Buckbeak. Yeah, oh yeah, I love that thing. It's so cool. We'll get more to that later, but back to Cuarón. He's a great director, and this really shows because he understands this world so well, and he brings out all the best of the actors and the people he was working with. Clearly, you can tell. This is, like I said, a great produced film, and it really, really shows in the directing aspect. The tone always feels very like natural and never seems to go overboard. All the moments that need the right kind of like spark to it and intensity, especially towards the ending of the film, it really, really works. And just overall, this look and feel of the film is just fantastic. And this film is also very emotional at points. And there's parts where I got like chills down my spine, especially towards the ending. There's one part which I still think is one of the most powerful moments I've seen in like any film, honestly.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So and just it's all because of Cuarón, because he just gets like the terror and like the wonderment in a human in a human soul, and that's shown in his other films like Gravity and stuff, and it really shows here. So yeah, definitely great directing here. And like I said, it's really well written and stuff, but I'll let Kevin get to that cinematography.
Yeah, so before I do get to that, I did want to touch upon a few things that you brought up. Yeah, the characters, they are very much maturing. You really do see that. Hermione is becoming a lot more sure of herself in this one, and just like Harry isn't taking shit from his aunt and uncle, she really isn't taking shit from Draco. She kind of gives him a bit, she kind of threatens him a bit, and it's honestly a lot of fun to see. It's very cathartic to see her go after Draco. He's been such a dick in the past two films, and you just want to see him, you want to see her kick his ass, and it's a lot of fun to watch. Ron is really evolving as well, and I think they do a very good job with that. But cinematography-wise, this, while in my opinion isn't the best entry in the series, in cinematography wise, it absolutely is. I mean, the style to this film, every shot is just so well done. It pops so well. It gets you into that atmosphere. And like I said, while it is a lot of fun, it is going for a lot more darker, specifically the Quidditch sequence. The thing that really does deviate from the other two is that while the other two are these really fun sequences, this one is very intense. It takes place in the rain, and it's a very sort of threatening sequence. You don't really know what's going to happen, and I think it's a very, you're very on edge watching it. I really love the direction they decided to go there, and it was definitely something very different, and it shows that although there are certain things you need to have in a Harry Potter movie, there are ways you can keep it fresh and exciting, and that definitely is one of them there. I think they do a really great job with that, and that scene of him riding Buckbeak, I mean, I think when anyone thinks of Harry Potter, that's one of the first shots to come to mind. If you just look up Harry Potter, that's probably one of the first images you'll see. It's such an incredible image. I mean, Harry is finally getting to ride this, a Buckbeak. He feels like he's on top of the world. It's such an amazing sequence there. I love that so much, and there's so many great shots like that in this film. The cinematography-wise, I mean, they really did go all out here. Like I said, that night bus sequence in general, just watch that sequence and you'll see how great the cinematography is just in that sequence alone. But that really is just scratching the surface of how great this film really is. The score, of course, is really great. Editing is definitely on point here. That is the one thing I will give this film, though. I will say the first, maybe 30 to 40 minutes of this film was a little bit slow for me. It wasn't necessarily boring. It just took a little while to get going. Once it did pick up, though, it really did pick up, and I was really into, the whole night bus sequence I really loved. It was just once he got to Hogwarts, I think it just took a little while to find its footing. But once the film took off, it really did take off for me, and there really aren't too many other things I can complain about in terms of that. I think the editing is so spot on. I think it's very sharp. I think it's very well paced. And before I do dive into the awesome climax of this movie, because trust me, it is definitely something amazing, I'm just going to go back to Auburn here, ask him, if you have any flaws or anything like that you'd like to talk about.
I do have flaws with this film, but my major flaw with this film is, as much as I like, what they do with the characters and stuff, I do feel like some of it is a bit
underwritten.
Yeah, I feel like the film doesn't want to go to the root. Sometimes in the film there's some character stuff they don't really want to fully explore the ideas that they present, and to me that kind of brings me out of the film, and that's something that I don't really like. And also, I do think the climax, as much as I like it, it is a bit messy. At least for me. Because I think there's so much happening at once, and it's kind of like a clusterfuck at times. Yeah. Okay. I'll be right back, because my mom wants to start it. Okay?
All right.
Then we can add this, okay?
All right. Well, I'm going to just get into... Oh, yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to get into the climax right now because it is absolutely incredible. I mean, everything about this climax, so many people have talked about it. It truly is one of the best climaxes in this entire series. I mean, just the whole way things play out, the way you think things are going to happen in this movie, especially towards the end. They build up. And of course, if you haven't seen this film, I am going to get into some spoilers because it's very hard to talk about this climax without really delving into the spoilers here. But of course, throughout the whole film, they build it up, making you think that Sirius Black is a killer and that he is the person that is responsible for Harry's parents dying. But we find out a lot later on in the film that it actually is Ron's pet rat, Peter Pettigrew, I think his name was. He basically was masquerading as this rat. He is the person who framed Sirius Black, but unfortunately it is too late. We have these creatures, I don't remember who they are, but they're going to kiss Sirius Black and basically put him on trial, and that it is just, you have that devastating sequence where basically he's laying beside Harry, and it looks like this is it. You just don't think he's going to make it out of it. And once that time travel sequence starts, I can understand if a lot of people have a problem with it, but I don't care. It is absolutely incredible. I love everything about that sequence, and I love that everything doesn't necessarily go the way they plan. There are still a few things that don't necessarily work out for them in the way they wanted it to. And the reveal, of course, that Lupin is a werewolf, I just found so cool as a kid. I used to have a huge obsession with like vampires and werewolves and things like that. So you put that in anything, it automatically elevated for me. But I still think it's a really cool reveal. Lupin is probably one of my favorite of the teachers in this entire series. I love the bond that he has with Harry. I love the relationship that they really do form in the film. And the relation between Sirius Black and Harry as well, I also really love. I love the way we really do dive into it overall, because, you know, this is really the first person that wants to take Harry in, gives him an alternative for Hogwarts. He wants to, you know, take him in and have him live with him. And we've never really seen a character like that before. And I just thought it was just such an interesting dynamic. But of course, the ending of the film with the whole time travel and the way all of that plays out, I absolutely love. It's such an incredible sequence overall. I love the way things really do play out there. You know, they're successfully able to prove that Sirius is innocent, and I just really do love everything about that sequence. I've gushed about it enough, though. You know, so many people have talked about it, but it really is incredible, and it's one of the, I think, best climaxes this series has truly ever given us, and I really do love everything about it. Of course, going to the acting, though, of course, everyone's really great here. You know, Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, Rupert Grint, I think they all really do a pretty great job. But the new characters, I really do want to touch upon. Specifically, Gary Oldman in this film as Sirius Black is phenomenal. This is probably one of Oldman's best performance. He exudes such sinister. He exudes just this very sort of sinister, menacing presence. You know, Sirius is always someone that you're very terrified by. You don't really know, you know, much about him, but that's why you're so terrified of him, because he's kind of like this blank slate. And what we're led to believe, you know, it's just very terrifying. I think he just did a very good job with that. And especially when you get to the end of the film where he ends up going with Harry, I just thought was, you know, such a great performance from Oldman overall. And then, of course, David Thewlis as the character of Lupin, I absolutely loved here. Probably one of my favorite of any of the teachers in these movies. I think he's such an interesting character, and all the new characters are really great additions. The acting, as usual, is top-notch here. Michael Gambon, although I don't think he is as perfectly casted as Richard Harris, because you can tell in this film he's a little rusty. He's still trying to get into the essence of the character. While he's not that great here, I think as the film goes on, as the other films do progress, he does get better overall. But we'll get to that in the other films.
All right. Okay, so
I talked about the climax.
So you talked about the climax?
I talked about the climax, and then I talked about like acting stuff because, you know, I'm gonna talk about that eventually, and I forgot to.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
But just get into the. I got into the spoilers and all that stuff. Just get into the climax.
Okay, what I'm gonna do is edit out the part where you asked me about like my issues with the film. What I'll do is I'll talk about the climax and my issues then.
Okay.
With it. Okay, so just ask me like about what I thought about the climax, so you can like edit it that way.
All right, so yeah, like I said, I've gushed about the climax enough. It's fantastic. There's just so much to say about it. But anyways, Auburn, just go on. What do you want to say about this incredible climax overall?
This is definitely a great climax. It's very different for a film like this because there's so much going on.
Yeah.
And I won't lie, it can become overwhelming to me a little bit. Mainly because there's so many like reveals about like which characters are who and like what their actual values are and what they're trying to, you know, what their goals are. And you know, just like different like, you know, like disguises, and Heaven's got into all that, I assume. And wait, fuck, I just said assume. Wait, hang on. Fuck! I gotta restart. Okay. Kevin, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay.
Go ahead.
People have seen the uncut version of this. Okay.
Yes.
So yes, this is a great climax. You know, I think this is a very bold and daring climax. Just because there's so many just like reveals and just so much happening, and it's so intense, and there's so many stakes. And you know, like all these like, you know, like, you know, big reveals are happening, and you know, all like, you know, the characters like, you know, Harry, Hermione, and Ron, you know, they all have to react like at once, and you know, they have to think like, you know, logically and what to do next. But like sometimes your emotions can like the best of you, and you know, you need people to kind of calm you. Like, you know, that's what I think Hermione's really good for, you know, Harry and Ron, to kind of, you know, like bring them down. And you know, Harry is, you know, so like brave and bold, and you know, Ron kind of, you know, you know, he's a little bit nutty at points, but you know,
a bit awkward, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically me. But you know, you know, he's valuable there too, and you really like their like teamwork together. And especially when Harry and Hermione have to go back like in time, which is one of my favorite sequences. Just in general, I think it's fantastic, and it's so thrilling, and it's just so like intense too, because it's like if something goes wrong, you're basically fucked, and you know, you're always like, okay, make sure something, you know, so and you know, it's all just really well produced. And then the moment that I just love is that, you know, Harry you know, was talking about how, oh, you know, his father like saved him
Yep.
and stuff with what are they called,
The Death Eaters, I think.
there's something like that. Look it up. Whatever those things are, you know, when he thinks like, you know, his like, you know, his father came to save him from those. You know, when they go back,
Dementors.
yeah, Dementors. And when they're back in time, and they, you know, Harry sees him, and fuck, what's his name? I'm sorry, I watched this film like a week or like 3 weeks ago, so I forgot some of
There are things I'm blanking on as well. I'm gonna have to redo part of the climax
Yeah.
as well because I forgot something.
What's his name? Snape is Black. What's his name?
Sirius Black?
Oh, Sirius Black. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Bro, I literally have said it like 5 times.
Wait, what's his name? I just forgot.
Sirius Black!
Okay, I got it! Jesus! Okay,
not white! Black!
Okay. And in the moment that I just, it's so powerful. Is, you know, when originally, like, you know, when you think it's the climax, and it kind of is, but it isn't, like, you know, Harry and Sirius Black are getting attacked by the Dementors, and they're trying to get their souls, and then he sees, like, someone, you know, like, saving them, and he thinks it's his father, but when he goes back in time, he's like, when Hermione and Linda in that moment, he's like, okay, you know, someone, you know, like, my father is going to come to save us. And he doesn't come. And then Harry realizes that it's him. And he goes up and basically puts the spell, and, you know, gets all the Dementors away. And just, it's so powerful.
Yeah.
And the way it's filmed with, like, it just, like, you know, the score, it builds up, then just cuts. And then you hear, you know, Harry do the spell. And then, you know, like, it does it. And then, like, the bass turns up. And then it's just like, oh, it's so well edited, and it's just so powerful, and it's something like chills down my spine. Because
yeah, that's something else.
Yeah, it just the Daniel Radcliffe he's such a good dramatic actor, and he really shows it there. And that's just one of my favorite moments of the film in general, because not many films can affect me in that way, where I'm like, oh my god, that is so powerful. Because he's like, I was the one. I have to make my father proud and do what, you know, he would have want me to done. And it's just so good. But you know, the climax I don't think is perfect. I do think it can get a bit overwhelming. And in the sense that there's so many reveals and so much happening, that can get kind of like a bit clusterfucky. I guess you could say. And another issue I have with the film, kind of doesn't really have to do much with the climax, is that there's so many like ideas presented with the characters, and you know, how they react to things, you know, emotionally, this and that I do feel that sometimes the film can get a little bit. There's some things that are underwritten. I feel like there's like some ideas presented here that should be fleshed out more. You know, they are fleshed out more in the other films, but they're so important here that I wish they fleshed them out at least a bit more. And I do think this movie is the best edited out of the ones so far. But I will admit, some of the some moments are a little bit kind of like, you know, slow. And you know, there's like, some people are like, okay, there's obviously slow moments in films, which is fine. But it depends on if you get out of the experience and you start to lose kind of like focus of what's happening. And that kind of happens a few times here. But overall, like I said, this is a great climax. And it's definitely going to be very hard to beat this climax, definitely, when we rewatch all these films. So, yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things I really do love about that whole time travel sequence, because again, like I said, some people could say, oh, it's just retconning a lot, and it really doesn't. Sirius Black is still not proven innocent. He does get to walk away as a free man, but he still is technically a fugitive. Harry does not get to live with him. So it's not like everything is just wrapped up in a nice little bow, and I do like that there are these loose ends there. I like that things don't work out the way they necessarily want them to, because there are still more films and there's still more of a story to tell. And that's something I really do love about time travel in general, just the ramifications of, what can happen and all that kind of stuff. And I think this film really does explore that to full effect. But overall, guys, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban is such an incredible film. It takes the series to new heights that really have not been explored before. It has such incredible character arcs for our main three characters. And like I said, it really does start to shift the series in a much darker direction than we have seen in previous films. The new characters really do add a very nice backstory to the film that really does answer a lot of the questions that we've had in our minds for the previous two entries. It's definitely one of the best in the Harry Potter franchise for sure. It definitely deserves all the praise it's gotten. I don't think it's quite the best one in the series, but it is definitely up there for sure. And I'm definitely going to give Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban overall an A.
For me, I think this is a great film. It's definitely the best so far. It's very, very powerful at moments. It's a great ride, a great adventure, a lot of stakes. Like I said, it's really, really well produced and directed. Very, visually with like the Dementors and stuff. And the climax is fantastic, and just overall, there's really you really get to see the growth and everyone involved in the characters, and you really start to feel really, really connected to what's happening. And I think that's why people like this film so much, because it takes all these characters that, are so innocent and begins to evolve them. And that's something that everyone has gone through or will go through in life. So I think that's why people love this film so much. And the story is just great too. It's really interesting. But yeah, this is definitely the best one so far. This is a great film. It's a childhood favorite that definitely still holds up. And I'm going to give Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban an 8 out of 10.
All right, and with that, guys, we are now done with the Prisoner of Azkaban review. We promise, well, we can't promise, but we hope that the next few reviews will not be as delayed as this one will. Yeah. We're hoping to get our Goblet of Fire one up in the next couple weeks. Hopefully, we'll see. But either way, that's it for this video. Thank you once again to Auburn Wanderer. And now actually have something to plug, because like I said, he makes videos. So definitely check out the 2 videos he's made for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's 2 videos. I mean, it's nothing special, but yeah. So I have like up on my channel, like I said, I do have my new mixtape up, Honey Propaganda, my best work yet, and then I have an interview about that with Kevin, and then I have like a comeback video, kind of like going into more detail of some like things that I talked about in the interview. I want to go into more detail about. And then I do have my first review back up. It's a Criterion review for one of my favorite films, Jean Damon. And I will have another Criterion review up in a few days for The Piano Teacher. So look forward to that. And yeah, thank you, Kevin, for having me on. And also, I probably will be reviewing Christopher Robin, because that's important to me.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much for having me on, Kevin. I appreciate it, and I can't wait to see you again when we review Goblet of Fire, which hopefully will happen soon, like you said, because we can't keep delaying these, because
we really can't. Fucking Fantastic Beasts 2 is getting closer.
Yeah. Yeah. That new trailer was pretty decent. So yeah,
it was all right. We'll get with that. That's a separate topic. We'll talk about. We'll talk about that in the movie preview or whatever. And by the way, guys, by a couple weeks, he means like a year from now. But either way, that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you guys in my next video. Of course, let us know what you think of Prisoner of Azkaban overall. Check out Auburn's channel. Definitely, get on that for sure. He's definitely making some great content. But that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoy it. We'll see you guys in my next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.